Oregon Ducks quarterback Dante Moore, he's back at Oregon. What was supposed to be the number 2 overall pick. The Jets are supposed to get their franchise guy. It appears that they are going to have to pivot. The Jets have a lot of question marks, including quarterback. You had Brady Cook, Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields. All that didn't work out. All with a first-year head coach in Aaron Glenn. Now you got, all these question marks. You had no turnover. Well, no interceptions all season. First team to ever do that. Jets fans, it's been a wild ride, but question for all Jets fans. Did you want Dante Moore? Let me know in the comments, because I think it's been a controversial debate ever since, his Indiana playoff game, to where he didn't really play great, but this is his chance to kind of say, hey, let's go to the NFL. A lot of people I've been seeing some takes about, this is the worst decision of Dante Moore's career. He's kind of saying no to the NFL, not the NFL saying no to him. So it's like, again, does Dante Moore do better because of this? Does he go back to Oregon and play really well? Dylan Raiola just transferred to Oregon, so there's a lot of question marks. Looking at his stats right now on the screen, I know stats don't tell the whole story, but 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,500 yards, first kind of full season starting at Oregon. This is a solid season, and to be a top prospect in the NFL draft, I don't necessarily think he's a top 3 pick. Obviously, teams are desperate for franchise quarterbacks nowadays, but looking at what this is going to be for the Jets, it's going to be really bad, because the Jets need a lot of things. However, I think it actually works in the Jets' favor. If you're a Jets fan, do you really want to draft a quarterback? Because I'm seeing a lot of Raiders fans that, Fernando Mendoza is the first overall pick, and it's like, okay, that's a great pick, but what is that really going to fix? The Raiders' offensive line is terrible, so it's like, okay, the Jets draft Dante Moore, hypothetically. You still have a lot of question marks as to can the rest of the team show up. Wide receiver 1, okay, you got Garrett Wilson. Is Adonai Mitchell the long-term answer? Are you going to go out and sign another wide receiver? This free agency class is not very good, might I remind you. The offensive line for the Jets has been good in I wouldn't say recent history, but, this past year they at least kind of gotten a lot of draft picks over the year. Armand Menbu, Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Josh Myers, Joe Tippmann. I mean, it's a younger offensive line that has been not injury-riddled. Elijah Vera Tucker coming off injury. I believe his contract is up. But looking at this Jets team, the defense too, what kind of opens your eye? So we're going to be doing a mock draft for the Jets, just kind of taking a deep dive as to, okay, what is Dante Moore got left? What can Dante Moore bring to the table? So as for Dante Moore, I really don't know what to expect. For my personal standpoint, I look at the fact that we'll try and weigh both sides. Okay, on one hand, you can become a worse player. You can be a Sam Howell, who was a top prospect in the 2021 NFL draft, kind of went back to UNC. The year after was a 5th round pick to Washington. So it's like, that's what could happen as well. Hypothetically, Moore could lose the job to Dylan Raiola, who just transferred over. But again, the real thing is Dante Moore was not ready. Now, granted, you're going to get a bunch of money at NIL, but to be fair, $50 million for the NFL as a second overall pick, guaranteed, that's pretty good. But I would argue that if you go back to Oregon, you look at a lot of these, more developed quarterbacks in Tyler Shuck, who's had a lot of years in college, Bo Nix. So far, at least, they've been pretty successful. Now, granted, it's been 2 short careers there, but at least in recent history, the experience side of football, it looks to have worked out. I believe if Dante Moore, let's say he was drafted to the Jets, that's a terrible situation, people say. But I think if he was drafted anywhere in the top 5, top 10, that's too much for him, and he's not ready for that. And he could be a Zach Wilson and be out of the league. Not out of the league, but out of his starting job in, first 5 years of the league. So that is where my problem is with Dante Moore going to the NFL draft. Now, you have a lot of controversy. Should he go to the draft? Yeah, he missed out on an opportunity. This is just going to make things worse. I don't disagree, but he's going to make some NIL money. It's not NFL money. It's $2 million compared to $50 million. But I still think, even if the NFL doesn't work out for some crazy reason to where he does worse than he did this year, which I don't believe at all. And again, there could be a better quarterback class to where he is competing with Arch Manning and other guys that are just completely outmatching him. Then, that could be a possibility where it bites you in the behind. So for me, I don't know. Looking at the Jets and what do they do now that Dante Moore is not available, I think, like I said, it's best case scenario for the New York Jets. So if we're going to take a look at this year's mock draft, the Jets need a quarterback. if we could go ahead and, even the Jets could trade 2 of their first round picks. They could trade 2 and 16. If you could see the whole screen here, but yeah, you could see 2 and here. Let me just move it over really quickly. The Jets could trade 2 and 16. Hang on, they could trade 2 and 16 for, maybe number 1, and it'll probably be another pick or something like that. But again, what do you do if you're the Jets? So that's where this mock draft comes in. You got the 2nd overall pick. You got a lot of picks. I don't want to make this trade, so I'm going to go ahead and start the draft. And the Raiders are going to pick Mendoza, obviously. So first things first, what do the Jets need? Quarterback, Ty Simpson. Yeah, I think it's a little early. I don't even mind Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to be really good. The Ole Miss quarterback, a lot of people, I don't know, Carson Beck is kind of hit or miss. I still feel like there's not many options. You could take Diego Pavia later, who was in the Heisman candidate. So, again, quarterback, it's like, okay, I like Ty Simpson, late first round area. If you want to go ahead and try and, see what he is. He's pretty raw, I would say. Again, young guy who could probably do well at some point throughout his career. Actually, Ty Simpson's not as young as I thought. He's 23 years old. In his first real start with Alabama, you got, like I said, Garrett Nussmeier, the Ole Miss quarterback, and then after that, it kind of falls off. So realistically, for the Jets, I think first round, you could go and pick your poison with a bunch of the skill position players that there are on the board. So honestly, I don't even care if you trade back at this point in the draft. It really isn't a bad decision to say, hey, let's trade back. Caleb Downs, one of the best prospects in the draft. Arvell Reese. Breece Hall's contract is technically up, so do you re-sign Breece Hall? You have a bunch of just awesome talent. Ruben Bain, somebody you can add to the defensive line. I mean, let's take a look at the Jets right now in terms of their defense. After trading Quinnen Williams, it looks like they need another interior guy. You got Colin Sanders. I feel like outside of Jermaine Johnson, you need somebody to go on the opposite side. Quincy Williams, okay, decent in terms of their linebacking core. Stigger's played all right. You have Dean Clark. I mean, there really isn't anybody who sticks out in terms of how the board is going. So looking back at the draft now, you have a lot that you can do in terms of Caleb Downs if you want to get multiple picks throughout the first round. Again, I think the pick here is Caleb Downs, considering I'm not going to trade. Again, it is very early to take a safety number 2 overall. But again, you need defense if you're this Jets team. They can even go edge, Ruben Bain, David Bailey. I mean, there's a lot of players in this draft. Peter Woods. You might need a wide receiver to pair with Garrett Wilson, Mekhi Lemon. So again, as for the first 2 picks in the early rounds, technically cannot trade back in the PFF mock draft. So we'll take Caleb Downs for now. Yeah, it's a little bit of a reach, but I would like to trade back in that scenario. You don't need the reach on a quarterback now that Dante Moore has opted out of the draft. So as far as who goes next, again, it's going to be tough. So Jets get the 16th pick with Indianapolis. They got in the Sauce Gardner trade. Again, this is where, you have to make your decision. Ruben Bain goes top 5. He is definitely a number 2 kind of pick that you can go after. Caleb Banks, I don't mind that either. I just realized that you guys probably cannot see the names that are going off the list, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this real quick. So again, the problem is with the draft. Now you take Caleb Downs. You have a bunch of people that go off the board: Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Ruben Bain. You have to pick your poison there with the top of the top prospects. Obviously, we're still in January, so we're months away from the NFL draft. But again, outside of those top 10 picks, who do you really like here? Caleb Banks is not a bad guy to go interior defensive line from Florida. But outside of that, I don't think the Jets need O-line. Again, then maybe they go get a Mike Evans in free agency, who definitely has a decent contract for a veteran maybe that you want to try and get. But again, what do you want to do with these skill position players? You could go with Downs. You could go with Reese, Bailey. Ruben Bain, I don't mind to pair up with Jermaine Johnson. That's a good one. Mekhi Lemon, good pairing with Garrett Wilson. Carnell Tate, I don't even hate, maybe not now, but Elijah Surratt on Indiana. This is a great pick right here. Surratt 6'5", I believe. Just a big target for Fernando Mendoza. Omar Cooper is playing great there. Again, wide receiver is really, really deep. So Again, Zachariah Branch had he's a quick, speedy receiver. I'm not going to go too far down the list because I'm sure nobody knows a lot of these guys' names, and I still have to do my fair share of research. But as for the Jets, I think the second pick you could easily go with Surratt. I think he is easily a late first round pick. Maybe you dare take a quarterback in this situation. There's a lot you can do for sure. But if I'm the Jets, why not go into your defensive line? Try and replace Caleb Williams. Go ahead and get, excuse me, Caleb Williams. I can't believe I just said that. Quinnen Williams, Caleb Banks. That's what I got confused right there. So I will go into the second round just because the Jets do have the first pick in the second round. They also have the 44th. So the Jets have a ton of draft picks that they can go with. They could take Ty Simpson right here if they really wanted to. In terms of looking at the guys that went off the board, again, this is where it gets, I'm trying to get better with college. But again, you had Denzel Boston go. There's a bunch of guys that you can look at. But again, you could even package the second round pick and the 44th round pick to move up and get Ty Simpson. But again, Ty Simpson falls to you at 33. I'm taking him. I feel like that's a great pick for the Jets there. And then Surratt goes right after. So that was probably my two guys that I was between right there was Surratt and Ty Simpson. But I think your quarterback falls to you round 2. Obviously, maybe you don't get that lucky. This is a simulator, obviously. But I think if you get these guys, you're pretty content. As for the last pick in the first round, I'm going to go with Chris Bell from Louisville. Chris Bell's been pretty good at Louisville. So again, it's been a weird season in terms of how these picks are going. But honestly, let me know how I did with the draft. I don't think I did too bad. But again, there's a lot of different places the Jets can go. If they don't re-sign Breece Hall, there's just a lot to do. So realistically, Ty Simpson, I think he's a project. You could easily re-sign Justin Fields, have him be kind of your veteran guy if you want, or maybe go ahead and get a better veteran quarterback, Andy Dalton, just somebody who can fill the void for now. As far as the team goes, here is what I drafted for the Jets in the first 2 rounds. Is it realistic? Maybe not. But Caleb Downs, number 2 overall, you could have went him, or you could have went with the Miami edge rusher. There's a lot of different talents you can go for. You got the Ohio State linebacker. There's a lot of different names. So as for a way too early mock draft, as for Oregon news, why not combine the two with the Jets missing out on Dante Moore? I honestly think it's for the better of the good for the Jets. You do not need to reach on a quarterback number 2 overall just because you need a quarterback. You can easily draft one in the second round, have him sit for half the season, and coach him up to the level that you want him to be at. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been the Big Z Breakdown. Mike Zanetti breaking it down. Jets, do they get a quarterback? What do they do? Let me know. Appreciate everyone watching. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode.